Now then, how are you doing? Most Elvis fans are familiar with the Golden Records series, and in Japan in 1972, the Victor Company of Japan, or JVC as we know it, they re-released all four volumes. Now, at the time, Elvis's popularity was sky high in Japan. The previous year, in 1971, That's the Way It Is had been number one on the LP chart for about 4 months. And later in that same year, 1972, the Madison Square Garden album would be released 2 times in Japan, and it would actually get into the top 10 on both occasions. So the image that Japanese people will have had at that time was of that early 1970s live Elvis in the jumpsuits. But the music on the albums, Golden Records Volumes 1 to 4, was actually quite old by then. Even Volume 4, much of the music on that album dates back to the early 1960s. So what they did when they re-released these albums was they repackaged them, and they went for a combination of new and old. And I'll explain what I mean by that when I show you the albums. So this is Golden Records Volume 1. And as you can see on the front cover, it has a younger Elvis. He's not too young, but this is looks like a mid-60s photo on the front. While on the back cover, you have an early 1970s photo. That looks like it could be from That's the Way It Is. On the front there, you see there's just the artist's name. There's no title on there. And on the back, you have the title and the songs, all in Japanese. Now, when they write the title in Japanese for an overseas album, they basically follow one of 3 patterns. The first pattern is they take the original album title and they just change the sounds into those of Japanese. So for example, the second album is called Elvis, as we know it in English, but in Japanese the title becomes Elvis, which is how they say Elvis's name in Japanese. So it's exactly the same word, same title, but just the sounds change. Another thing that they do is they translate the English title into Japanese words. So for example, Promised Land is Yakusoku no Chi in Japanese. That's the title of the album in Japanese. So it's the same title, but translated into Japanese. And the third thing that they did sometimes was they just basically changed the title of the album completely. So to give you an example, the Elvis Sings Hits from his Movies album was called Guitar Man in Japanese. Now, with this series of Golden Records, for some reason, they actually changed the title of these albums as well. And on the back, in Japanese, it says Elvis Presley Story, Volume 1. So the whole series was changed from Golden Records to Elvis Presley Story, Volumes 1 to 4. I think Elvis Presley's story has a little bit more weight to it than Golden Records. It has a sort of a historical feel to it, like you're actually buying something from the past, something that actually has some merit, historical merit. As I showed you in some of my early videos, in the early 1970s they were really taking great care in the packaging of his covers, and this series was no exception. And in fact, this album came in a gatefold sleeve, and like all the gatefold sleeves, it had the title again here, Elvis Presley Story Volume 1, song titles here, Japanese notes on each song on the left side, and then on the right you've got the lyrics here. So that was Volume 1. Volume 2 looks not dissimilar to the first one. So again, you have a mid-60s picture of Elvis on the front, just the artist's name on the front, and on the back you have a live shot, not too old. So this looks like it might be from 1969, I guess, judging by that black guitar. And it's very difficult to see the titles in here, but it's the title of the album and the songs is in blue text here. Again, it says Elvis Presley Story, Volume 2. And once again, you have the same pattern on the inside with the gatefold cover. And you might think, well, why is it even Golden Records Volumes 1 and 2? Well, if you look at the label does actually say Gold Records Volume 2, and then underneath it has the Japanese translation, or the Japanese title, Elvis Presley Story Volume 2. In actual fact, on Japanese labels, you find very little Japanese. And indeed, the first 3 Elvis albums ever released in Japan had only English on the labels. And from the 4th album on, they started putting the titles in Japanese in brackets under the English title. And that continued right the way through until the last album released 2 years ago, and then they've gone back to using only English now. This is volume 3. So another thing you might notice is that each album has a different colour. So this one has a sort of a brownie colour, brownie look to it. And once again, another sort of mid-60s, is it sort of clam bake era picture. And on the back you have another early 70s photo that once again looks like it's from That's the Way It Is. Titles of the songs in Japanese, and Elvis Presley Story Volume 3 in Japanese. And once again you have the gatefold here. These weren't released at quite the same time. Volumes 1 and 2 were released in January 72, and 3 and 4 were released in February 72. And this is the last one here. This is volume 4. It looks like a shot from the sort of Speedway era, so late 60s photo here, and then on the back another early 70s live shot. And once again the title Elvis Presley Story Volume 4, and all the titles in Japanese. And on the inside there, same as before. So these albums would actually be available only for 1 year, because at the start of 1973, just after the Aloha from Hawaii show, the record company re-released 20 LPs in a series, and all 4 volumes of that Golden Records series were included in the 20 reissues. And I've got all of those albums. So I'm going to do a video about those, because some of them came with posters, and then they were re-released without posters. So I'm going to be showing you the difference between the ones with the posters and the ones without the posters. But I'll do that another day. So finally, these albums, Golden Records 1, 2, 3 and 4, these are all in my top 10 Elvis albums, all of them. But if I had to rank just these 4, so this one is my favourite, this one my second favourite, this one is my third favourite, this one is my fourth favourite, but still a great album. Now you've already forgotten which is which, haven't you? So I'll tell you once again. This is my favourite, this is volume 3. Closely followed by this one, this is volume 4. And then my next favourite is volume 2. And then volume 1. Now after that, basically they would keep the original covers when they re-released all these albums. And they continued to do that. So these 4 albums here with the completely different covers and even the different titles in Japanese, they're a pretty unique little set. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you.